For the Aries moon individual, the shadow self side can present as impulsivity, aggression, having a quick temper, being combative or creating conflict, and refusal to take accountability. Their emotions might be intense, visceral, and quick to shift, which can cause the native to struggle with emotional regulation and self-control. The likelihood is high for feeling a strong desire and drive for independence, and this can result in a native's predisposition for cutting people off or being less present as things get too close for comfort, or especially if they start to feel smothered or like they're under someone else's thumb of authority and control. They will also often abandon projects, goals, and situations in which success becomes less guaranteed, or that could potentially end in failure, oftentimes prematurely out of fearing failure and not being able to accept anything short of winning or being the best. This can lead to future regrets. Natives might have a little bit of imposter syndrome, feeling like they haven't earned their accomplishments or like whatever they do is never enough. They have a harder time with impulse control, which can lead to reckless, dangerous, and regrettable results if left unchecked. It also manifests as outbursts of anger or violence, aggressive behavior, and conflict. If the potent energy of their extreme and intense emotions is not channeled constructively, they will often struggle with repressed rage that gets unleashed accidentally in inappropriate situations. It can also lead to feelings of restlessness and overstimulation. Natives can struggle with things like hypersexuality or even having a particularly aggressive or paraphilic or sometimes violent sexual appetite. These natives must have some kind of physical catharsis and release, or it can lead to sudden and unexpected acts of violence or anger against others, themselves, or inanimate objects. It can cause them to become very destructive without such a release. They can have a tendency to lose their head in the heat of the excitement or chaos, which can also be dangerous, as they will be less capable of logical reasoning from the rush of adrenaline. They can be very childish with their tantrums and their expressions of emotion especially, and they can be very, very selfish and have a hard time with having some perspective of the reality of a situation or perspective of what other people's experiences might be like, especially in the midst of the height of, really strong emotions. For this moon sign, the shadow self is usually quite easily frustrated and can be very irritable. They can be very stubborn and headstrong. They don't like being told what to do, and they don't like to be monitored or have someone try to give them oversight. They want to do it themselves in the way that they see fit, and anything that comes, across as trying to be controlling or authoritative, they will immediately buck against it. They are usually pretty honest, sometimes to a fault, to where it comes off as really crass or rude or just tactless in the delivery because they haven't filtered themselves and put their honest thoughts into an appropriate articulation. They are very passionate, and they usually see things in like extremes. It's one extreme or another. They are extremely quick to react without considering the consequences of those reactions. When they are angry, they require a lot of space, and they really need, like I said, they really need a physical outlet for that angry energy, or it's going to build up inside of them if they try to push it down. So you have to have some kind of like physical exertion, whether it's exercising, just taking a fucking run across the yard, a punching bag, having sex, something like that, in order to get that frustration and built up, pent up energy out of the body. They have a tendency to be on the defense all the time, and they can be very competitive. So even if something isn't intended to be like a competition or an attack, a lot of times the Aries moon individuals, when their shadow self is taking, the lead, they will perceive things as being an attack or as being competition and feel like they need to rise to that occasion. In a dangerous situation where everyone is scared, the Aries moon individual is the most likely to take the lead and make the decisive actions required, even if it's something they're not certain of and something that they are also afraid in the moment. Their initiative kicks in those moments, and they are most likely to be the one to take action and lead the way for everyone else if no one else has stepped up to do that. When it comes to really complex emotional situations, the Aries moon individual will oftentimes cling to their anger about something because they struggle with like processing the more complex emotions, especially if they are nuanced. So in order to preserve what they perceive as preserving themselves and their honor, they cling to anger. Aries moon individuals can be unpredictable, especially when it comes to how they are going to react to certain stimuli and to certain circumstances, because they can vary from moment to moment with them. A lot of the time, Aries moon individuals are really at odds within their own self, against their own mind, and they have an internal conflict, an internal battle that they're constantly fighting, trying to, overcome their more childish nature or their basic instincts, animal instincts, and allow their logic and their reasoning to kind of lead the way. But it's a constant struggle for them between those two things because of how intense their emotions are and how overwhelmingly it can take over their psyche and push their logic and reasoning to the side to take over. That happens a lot with them. A lot of the time, Aries moon individuals will struggle with taking accountability for their actions after the fact, and they will struggle with apologizing when they are wrong. They don't like to admit that they are wrong, and to apologize means to admit that they were wrong. And a lot of times it feels like, well, they weren't in control of their emotions and their reactions to things, so they don't need to take accountability or be responsible for it. So that's a huge aspect or dark part of the shadow self for the Aries moon individual as well.